Hi everyone. I hope my video is visible and my audio is audible clearly. Yeah, I think it's already 8. We can get started. So, the title for today is going to enlighten us with how to get a high paying job. And this is going to be with respect to tech. And we're going to talk about tech interviews. And we're also going to talk about what user journeys lead to high paying jobs for software engineers and very similar roles, for example applied scientists, research scientists. And yeah, so generally, whenever you trace back a high paying job, it always leads to that the company must have, and the business must have the potential to compensate a high skilled engineer. And once you identify that the company has the potential to pay you uh, and keep you as a high paid engineer, then you plan to apply for it, then you target it. So like especially at your young ages, you get to hear about top companies that pay a lot. For example, yeah, we all must have heard about Google, Facebook, Amazon during our early college years, that these companies pay XYZ amount of money. And we've also heard about major consulting firms, that these companies also pay a lot of money. So whenever we get to know that these XYZ companies are going to pay this much amount of money, we tend to start our user journey. So for management consultants, it might be an MBA from a prestigious college. For computer science engineers, it might be exhibiting their skills at coding and system design. And for most investment bankers, it might also be an MBA. For financial analysts, it might be CFA. So that is how they tailor their journey. So once they identify this is the domain that the company operates in and that the business operates in, and this is how I can start my journey to target this particular company. So we're going to talk about the same, but we are going to stick to only tech, and we are going to talk about how generally people get into high-paying jobs in tech. So this video is going to be tailored towards mostly junior developers. So uh, people who are targeting SD ones and SD twos, and also SD3. So generally, when you go above a certain level, your job automatically gets high paying. I mean, especially in the relative order, and when you compare it with the purchasing power and the per capita of India, it gets high paying when you reach a certain experience level in tech, no matter what company you're working at. But at a young age, if you want to target a high paying company, and at a junior level, if you want to target a high paying company, so the first common thing that comes to our mind is FANG. That let's target the big tech companies. So I have experience working at big tech. So I worked at two big tech companies. One is Google and one is MathWorks. So I'm currently working at Google and previously worked at MathWorks. Both of them are in a big tech space. So they qualify as large companies who are having $1 billion of revenues, and one of them has even $1 trillion market cap. Yeah. So how do people generally target these companies? So let's talk about all of the possible journeys, and we don't know what journey might benefit whom. So the first trivial most journey is that you are working or you are studying at a very prestigious university and an engineering university. For example, you working you are studying at a top IIT, or studying at a top NIT or top triple IT, top bits, and then you directly get an internship at a big tech company, and then that big tech company thinks that you are a valuable employee and they give you a full time offer, and that's how your trivial journey of uh, starts. Trivial journey of a high paying job starts. So that is a very simple formula. I mean, you work hard to get a good college, and in the college you work hard to get a good job, and in the job you keep on working hard to probably climb up the ladder or switch jobs or start your own venture. And now then comes, if you are not from that pedigree of colleges, if you are from a lower tier of colleges, and in those colleges you don't have exposure to a lot of big tech companies or a lot of good startups or a lot of other tech companies that are probably service based, but they pay decent, but you don't have access to them. So the first proxy that you might have to those companies, or the first gateway to those companies, if you have time and if you can afford, is masters. So this was a very common framework. People used to go abroad, do an MS. So if they were from not a very decent college, they used to pursue MS uh, from the US or from any high economic center like UK or Australia or United States. So, and after they go to that high cost center, they used to choose a decent college because they could not during their bachelor's, and then they used to wait for the opportunity in a big tech company or a decent tech company, and then probably get that role. So that masters used to help them. The masters used to act as a platform where they can shine and shape up their skills, and they can have one more better institution uh, backing them up, whereas their bachelor's institution could not back them up. So now they have one more better institution backing them up, and the probability that they would now get into a very good company increases, because now that they have two academic institutions backing them up, and one of them obviously is better than the other. And yeah, and they also have 4 to 7 years of academic experience now, so they have studied more than an average engineer. The probability of getting a high paying job increases with masters. So masters used to act as a gateway to a top company previously. Even currently also, if you can afford to have the time to invest in masters, if you can afford to pay for your masters, if you can afford to wait for the money to come in. So let's say if your family can afford to pay for your masters, if you yourself can afford to pay for your masters and probably get a scholarship, and then I think that is a good way. So we won't debate which is the best way, which is the most optimal way, because every person has a different journey. So we would just consider that there is one objective that we are targeting, and then there are multiple pathways. So we will discuss one pathway after the other. So the first pathway we discussed was generally through a tier one college. The second pathway is through masters. So even if you're targeting masters from the US or from India, both of them would lead or increase your probability of getting into a decent tech company, because the recruiter would also consider you little more valuable than a bachelor's guy. First thing is that you get mature with your age. Second thing is you have more academic years than an average engineer. Third thing is you've probably studied the curriculum better and more than an average engineer, and you have given yourself one more chance. So if you did not perform that well in your bachelor's, you have given yourself one more chance. And if you performed very decently well in your bachelor's, and then on top of that you wanted to increase the depth and breadth of your knowledge in your technical field, which is computer science, so you have probably matured over that field. So the probability of you getting a high paying job with masters definitely increases. So it boosts up. So only if you can afford to spend that time and money for masters. Now then there is one more common way in which you get placed at a decent company, which is not that high paying, but at a moderate level. It pays you at a moderate level, and then you climb up the ladder uh, till you don't get a high paying job. So I've seen a lot of journeys where people from TCS to Infosys to HCL, and then they climb up the ladders in these service based companies, and then they eventually switch to a better product based companies with time. So they take their own sweet time to enter the market, and when they enter with force and with a decent amount of experience. So that is also one way where they upskill themselves continuously and throughout in these companies, and they have a track record, a proven track record of delivering products and of delivering business solutions. And with that track record they have a decently worthy resume that they can brag about, and then they switch to product based companies. Then there is one more. I mean, this is one of the. This is most of our audience lies here, where they are either working in service-based companies, or they are working at not so great companies, or they are not working at all. They're probably in their undergrad, and now they want to enter big tech, or they want to enter a company that pays very decently. So one way is to keep on upskilling yourself, And upskilling does not really mean uh, so there are let's talk about upskilling and interviewing. So there are three gateways to upskilling and interviewing. So the first is coding. So coding is necessary but not sufficient. So if you don't know coding and if you don't know how to solve problems, so you would be thrown out of the interview at the very first round. So that is the first deal breaker. So you cannot afford to not understand and not have the ability to write a good piece of code that someone can understand. The second thing is system design. So especially for mid senior engineers who are targeting uh, a high paying job or who are targeting big tech companies after 1 to 2 years of work experience. So they also encounter system design problems. So system design problems are mostly situational, and they are also behavioral. So a large system typically takes years and years to build. They don't really want you to build a large scale system in those 30 to 60 minutes. They genuinely want to understand how you deal with such situations. Are you well aware about the keywords that that every design decision might contain? Are you well aware? How do you navigate and how do you navigate a complex system and a complex scenario? So they mostly want to evaluate you on those basis. And the third thing is behavioral, whether you are the right fit for the company, whether you can take ownerships and responsibilities, whether you can identify business problems before they occur. So that is where they are evaluating you. So there are three barriers that you have to break. The first barrier is a very trivial barrier that you cannot afford to miss, which is coding. Second, also you cannot afford to miss, which is system design. Third is your character that gets built up over time. So how do you take responsibility and ownership? How proactive are you in identifying problems in your current company and then solving them proactively? So that gets built up over time. So and you are definitely evaluated on that. So you cannot learn it from a book, but obviously you can learn the value system of a good engineer, of a good uh, skilled worker, so that in your current company you can operate with such a format that it gets reflected in your personality. So these are the three major barriers to any good tech job. So we are not going to talk about specific skill sets because learning Spring might not get you a high paying job. Learning XYZ framework, learning XYZ ABC tool will not get you a high paying job. So high paying jobs will evaluate you on these three levels. First is coding, second is design, and third is your behavior, your intrinsic personality. Before that, you need to do a lot of groundwork to get your resume up, to upskill yourself. You cannot spend infinite time just on coding. You cannot spend infinite time just on system design. You need to, depending on uh, depending on what is your current situation, you have to evaluate how much time do I need to spend to get to a certain coding level so that I don't get I don't get eliminated from a coding interview, because that is the first barrier, and the second barrier is going to be a system design interview. So just evaluate and analyze what bucket you are in, and then invest time in all of these three areas to upskill yourself. And obviously, if you have a proven track record in your current company where you are performing and where you are getting promoted with time and before time, so that means that you have a track record of delivering projects with time and with ownership. That means you have probably some leadership experience, probably some ownership experience, probably you have uh, contributed as a junior developer, you have led teams, or you have owned a certain piece of business problems and delivered them. So all of these things adds layers and layers of credibility, just like your college. And these all of these factors increase your chances in getting your resume shortlisted. So depending on what situation you are in, so everything adds value. If you're a student, focusing on your studies would make the most amount of impact, and getting a good internship would make the most amount of impact, because the internship to high paying job probability is also very high. If you if you are currently working at a company, getting promoted and having a proven track record with very decent solid interview preparation would make the most amount of impact. And if you have been laid off from your job and you are currently not employed, focusing a lot on interviews and upskilling yourself with the relevant technologies and proving in such a way that you are a very fast learner and you can own certain piece of businesses, certain piece of technology problems, and you can deliver them, proving them in a certain way, I think is the biggest value add in your particular uh, situation. So these are the three major situations that you can be at. So yeah, I think these are the areas where you can probably invest in to get a high paying job. So now let's discuss some platforms where you can analyze and evaluate what all companies are paying the most amount of money and what companies can I mean you want to target depending on your geographical location. And before jumping into that, let's also talk about one more area that people generally miss. So, whenever you are planning to get into a new role and into a new job, one way is to look at only your geography where you are placed at. For example, if you are in Bangalore, only looking at Bangalore. But another way to look at it, if you can also expand your horizon to different geographies, and if that is not a restriction, for example, if you can move to a high cost center like US or UK or Canada or Australia, depending on which economy you like the most and which place excites you, you can also apply to those particular countries, knowing that US does not have a talent based visa. So US, you cannot directly apply to a US to a job in the US without some company sponsoring you through L1 or through H1B. But you can definitely apply to companies in Europe. For example, you can target companies in Prague. You can target companies in Italy, Germany, all of these countries in the Europe. And you can also target all the countries in the UK. You can target London. You can target Ireland. You can also target Scotland. So doing a good search on LinkedIn in all of these countries that are possible and plausible from India. So where the relocation from India to these cost centers are possible, you can probably grab a decent high-paying job because all of these cost centers have better per capita or more per capita than India, and they tend to pay more because there the baseline of minimum wage is very high and the baseline of a high skilled worker baseline salary of high skilled worker is very high. So if that works out for you, if that formula works out for you, I think you can also leverage that formula where you plan to target countries beyond India where a talent based visa can be easily sponsored, for example UK and Europe. Canada also, I've seen multiple instances where people get offer from Canada directly sitting in India. Yeah. Now I'm sharing a platform known as levels.fyi. So levels.fyi, sorry, I think I misspelled it. Yeah. So levels.fyi, if you tend to filter the location and the company that you want to observe, so it would after you sign up, it would show you the salaries people have posted at different levels. So for example, if you're targeting Amazon, you would be able to see what are the average salaries that an Amazonian is getting at SD1 and SD2 at SD3 at different locations. For example, in Bangalore, in San Francisco, in Seattle. So here you can do your own research. What are companies according to you are high paying companies in the tech and even in non tech if you want to, and then you can tailor your interview preparation according to these companies. So after knowing these salary bands from levels.fyi and from lead code, your why to switch might also increase. So I heard a quote from Tony Robbins where he says that change happens when the pain of being in the same situation is greater than the pain of change. So maybe when you realize that these companies are paying double and triple or quadruple or 10x my salary, the reason to switch becomes more prominent and the reason to work hard becomes more prominent. The reason to own multiple things in your life and in your particular preparation and in your particular company becomes more prominent because you would realize that the reward is much greater than what I thought. So you can definitely leverage this platform. So most engineer, I think this platform is highly credible and it's mostly updated. You won't see. I don't think so. There would be a lot of fake data points on this platform, but take it with a pinch of salt since it's anonymous. Yeah. So I think that was it. So we discussed most journeys. We discussed the master's journey, the internship journey, the tier three journey, or service based to product based journey, and we discussed the aspects of interview preparation. Now we can take some ad hoc questions on the live. So Coding Blocks is running their boot camp, their career boot camp for all the working professionals who are planning to transition from one role to the other, where they are working at a service-based role and they want to transition into a product-based role. So you all can check that course out. That course is a complete package of coding, which is data structures, algorithms, and then system design, and then they are also covering some very famous frameworks like Spring and React. So just do check that out. If you have any questions, just post it in the comments. We'll try to answer each one of them. I think Rahul has a question, but I don't see a question being posted. How difficult will it be to switch from PSC to backend developer? So can you abbreviate what is PSC here? How to target 3 crore package at the first time? I don't have an answer to that. So the best answer is get a job in the US, and if you get a mid-senior role or a senior role, then you would probably be at that package automatically. But getting a 3 crore package directly at the first time, and that too in India, yeah, that is a tough bet. So okay. So let's talk about this 3 crore thing. How people get their lotteries mostly. So there, I have heard some cases where let's say the base salary is not that much, but people hold some ESOPs, and over time the ESOPs get appreciated by a good multiplier. For example, if you were offered ESOPs worth 20 to 30 lakhs, and your company did 10x and 100x in valuation, so there's a high probability that your 30 lakhs got uh, converted into 3 CR and 30 CR. So depending on if you joined the company at an early stage and now that the company has 10x and 100x in valuation, and there is also a round that is coming in. Let's say there's one more funding round or there's one more round where the merger or acquisition is happening, where you get you get to sell your shares, you get to sell your ESOPs to another company, maybe to public or to the founders, to the company itself. So that is also one way to have a decent lottery through ESOPs. But that is purely luck based. That is sometimes your evaluation. So sometimes you get to find good SaaS companies and you identify them before they get too big and then you tend to join them. That is a risk you take. So in India, that is how it is possible at the earliest. How do you evaluate the current market for the mobility industry? For the if you're talking about automobile industry, I think the consumption in automobile industry is a bit low at this particular point of time. That means people are buying lesser cars. People are thinking that the loans have become expensive and they need to control down. Probably the inflation is a bit high, and people tend to buy lesser cars. And now the or the automobile industry is a bit struggling. That is what I have observed as a macroeconomic trend. Product solution engineer. Okay, so I don't exactly know what is a product solution engineer. So I mean, you might have to explain the job responsibilities of a product solution engineer, because a lot of companies have these ambiguous definitions or ambiguous designations. So you might be doing a software engineer work, but your designation might be a product solution engineer. So switching to a backend role might not be that difficult, because at the end, what matters is your skill set. Whatever might be your designation, but if your skill set allows you to switch to a software engineer role or a research scientist role or an applied scientist role, then the designations don't matter much. Okay, so mobility, by mobility you meant mobile solution for iOS and Android apps. Okay, so I don't have a lot of clarity on that niche market. So whether you want to stick to remain into iOS and Android, but yeah, I definitely know that it's not going away anytime sooner, and it is going to stick for a very long time. For as long as we are having mobile devices, we cannot afford to miss on Android or iOS, and that to their development. So the development stages might evolve, the process might evolve, and it would get better. The way the apps are being developed and deployed, they would get better with AI and with better frameworks. But yeah, it's not going anywhere. So you can bet on it. I've almost learned Moonstack, and now I want to be a good developer. So, what are the projects I should build? I can build my logic as well and be good at backend, especially. So, you should focus on. So, I don't know what your current situation is. If you are in college, maybe you can start you for any impactful project. It depends on what situation you are in. If you are in college, the most impactful project you can do is maybe an open source project. Why an open source project? Because the probability of an open source project going live is very high. Or maybe a project with your professor that can go live into production, or that can be published as a research, or that can be deployed in the college, maybe. So you should evaluate your position and then see what is the most impactful area of learning, and then you should target that area. Instead of the technology, target an impactful project. And accountability also. So if you are doing an impactful project, that means other people are involved, that means you are accountable to other people, that means you have to perform, and that means you have to contribute. If you are just doing a project for the sake of doing it on YouTube, that means there's no one involved to check your progress. That means you can delay for as much as you want to. Even if you deploy or not deploy it, it won't matter. So no stakeholder and no accountability and no impact means that the probability of you losing is very high. So just see if you can put yourself in an environment where your accountability is very high, so that you at least deliver the project. And in that whole process, you tend to learn a lot of things. I got internship plus PPO as an SDE. Can you tell what should I learn to gain more skills? Is Web3 a good career for future? Just need advice what you did at the beginning of your career. So if I talk about my career, I mostly focused on building good fundamentals across backend, across machine learning. So I focused a lot on machine learning and deep learning. I learned the math behind it, then did relevant theoretical courses behind it, and then did a couple of projects and did a couple of internships at a few research labs at my college. That is how I upskilled myself beyond my job. So if you wanted to know that, this is the answer. Sir, you say about good personality. Can you say more specific about it? Okay. So I did not say much about personality, but I said that. So if you talk about personality, you should be a good communicator. That means you should be able to explain your problem to relevant stakeholders. Stakeholders means all the people who are involved in your business problem. And once you know how to communicate and how to negotiate and how to influence your stakeholders and your juniors and your seniors, so that they get convinced in your decisions, then you are mostly through. And second thing is, with respect to character, that you should have some kind of ownership element in you, that you tend to take ownership and responsibility and accountability of things that you're given, so that no one has to micromanage you, and that will automatically make you proactive in delivering things. So that is going to be a good value add in your personality. The problem is that I am from open university. I don't have any guidance in anyone. So this is the problem. I think your peer group is your best bet. Your network is your best bet. Talking to a lot of people. Since you are in an open university, you don't have a cohort given by your college. But what if you build your own cohort? What if you join a community, open source, and you talk to a lot of people and discuss their journeys? Since you are in an open format, but yeah, definitely you will get to learn the most from people's experiences. So talking to a lot of people would definitely help you. If your college is not giving you that, then I think you will have to build it yourself. Yeah, I think you can connect with me, and you can surely reach out to me on LinkedIn. uh I don't have a lot of I mean, I've not bet a lot on Web3, and I can't comment much whether it is good to learn today. So you can learn it with a pinch of salt. So just learn it for the sake of learning it. Try to understand it, and then maybe move forward. But I don't know if you just want to stick to it and build a whole career out of it. So learning technologies for stimulating your brain and for understanding complex systems is a good idea. So with that perspective, it is a good idea. But I can't really comment on Web3 whether you should completely bet 100% of your time and money on that, and your career also. Because I've not worked a lot in that space, and I've not seen uh, people solely work in that area. Okay, I think if we don't have further questions, we can probably uh, drop off. Is learning React Native a good option? Yeah, I mean, it is a good option. It depends what are you comparing it with, but it is definitely a good option. You are confused between Web3 and AI. The issue with AI is we had to masters or PhD for getting high pay job. So if you compare Web3 and AI, I would obviously ask you to focus on AI and focus on learning, machine learning, deep learning, and how LLMs are designed and how they're working, and the concepts behind neural networks, transformers. I would not recommend Web3. That is my personal opinion. My LinkedIn ID is Puru Kathuria. You can just search on LinkedIn. Okay. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Since we don't have much questions, I think we can probably drop off. Thank you.